New World of Tanks, new power.
Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Kelly has had a really good spring again, but those guys behind him have had a great spring as well. And I think we could really, truly win with any of the four, and we've got a very good situation. And if we played today, Kelly'd run out there, but we don't play today. We play in September.
I wasn't that nervous on the last part compared to the first two putts on 18, and I hit it exactly where I aimed, and it rolled in beautifully exactly where I aimed.
Kadara. Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. After a very, very busy weekend all across the state of South Carolina, from football in the upstate to golf in the low country and everything else in between, we're all back together here in our studios. Those of you watching our Twitter feed, you see a couple of guys sporting the tartan caps, reminding us of the 50th edition of the RBC Heritage. Apparently not worthy of getting a cap. I get a koozie.
I didn't think that
very nice.
I didn't think that you would ever want the tartan, though.
I like the tartan.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Well, if you would have told me you like the tartan.
Some things should go without mention. I noticed that Pro has something that he probably didn't ask for.
I saw that I actually asked him, I said, do you want sex? I showed him, and he's like, yes, please. So I got it for him.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I understand how this works. How was the tournament? How much did you enjoy it?
I had an immense time at the tournament. It was so much fun. And the people there, as you know, they do such a fantastic job. Everything's run flawlessly, just from the organization of it. And the folks at the PGA Tour do a great job. And you could tell that, it's been a while since I attended the tournament. You could tell that not only that the folks from the PGA Tour, but the influence of the folks at RBC have really kind of given that tournament a little extra oomph and a little extra push. And I think that certainly is evident when you think about not just the RBC guys who are on there playing, but the fact that it includes Dustin Johnson. You really saw the DJ effect, I think, especially on Friday and Saturday. You didn't see it as much Sunday. I mean, the Sunday it was a later arriving crowd because of the early start. I think a lot of people didn't necessarily get the message or just didn't come as early as they normally would have for a Sunday gallery day. But Friday and Saturday were some of the biggest crowds I'd ever seen in that golf course.
Looked good on television. And, of course, there was drama. It's too bad that they had to move everything up early and play it first thing Sunday morning, that last round, and tape delay it for a CBS later in the afternoon, because by the time it came on television, we all knew the result. But quite a bit of drama surrounding the 18th. You were right there watching it. And then, of course, they go to the playoff. It took, 3 extra holes to decide it.
3 holes, and it's weird. They play 18 twice, and they play 17 after if it's still tied after 2 holes. And, the weirdest thing is that hole, that 18th hole, you've played it. It's not difficult for the
the way I play it,
not the way you
doesn't.
I have some
come anywhere close to how they play.
I have some questions for you on some of the holes.
One of the things I hate when people say, "Yeah, you play that course." So, no, I don't play it like.
I want to know what
it.
your true gentleman's score was on the last par 5, the 580-yard par 5.
On 18?
No, the par 5, the 580. Like I think it's 16.
16.
Yeah.
What would I have on 16?
What did you have? The gentleman's score.
We were playing, of course, a scramble.
I'm saying, what would be your gentleman's score?
Oh, it would probably be, if the wind is blowing in, it'd probably be about a triple bogey.
12.
Yeah. I would pull a Sergio.
As you know, for the tour players, that hole is not a difficult one until you factor in the wind. And a lot of times with the wind, you try to land it left. Sometimes it'll go too far left. Sometimes it'll go too far right. I mean, it gives you that very big wide space in that landing hole. And seeing the way those guys all kind of attack it, it really is, I don't want to say comical, but I think it's humbling the way that approach shot works from that large landing area onto that, what is a very narrow green. And one of the things that rung very true to me is what Ian Poulter said after his Saturday round. He said, it's a clever golf course. It's not the longest course. It's a clever golf course. And it's something that really Pete Dye, when he went in to try and design this course, he didn't want to make this course too hard for people to reach and for the older golfers to be able to play, because he didn't want it necessarily to be exclusive to heavy hitters, but he wanted you to be a cerebral golfer. And I think so much of that was personified not only in the way Siwoo Kim attacked the last regulation hole, but in how both of those players, Siwoo Kim and Satoshi Kodaira, attacked it during the 2 playoff holes.
I think the big question is, what would Pro have on that par 5, 500 and something yard hole? When's the last time you had a golf club in your hands? You know which end of a golf club to hold?
Years.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I'm an opposite golfer, and I've told him about this. I can putt like hell.
Yes.
I can't drive the ball.
Well, that's the one thing.
And I told somebody,
what they say: drive for show, putt.
Yeah, he'd be great.
And it's fascinating how I learned how to putt, and that is because my dad taught me early on how to play pool. And so, if you don't factor in the slopes and everything, angles have always been good to me because I can see angles pretty good. But driving the ball is what difficult to me, because my dad was also a baseball player, and I can't get the baseball swing out of the and plus with the torn ligaments I had in my right ankle, that finish when you have to turn your foot, woo.
Well, my baseball swing was terrible anyway. The one thing that nobody did was putt on Sunday at all. The putter was not working for anybody.
Was the wind up?
Wind was up,
yeah.
And the greens were softer than I think the players were giving them credit for.
All right. Now, Clemson football, I was up there Saturday. Beautiful day up in Clemson. 55,000 announced crowd. They were really into it. And I think most everybody there would admit that they were there to see Trevor Lawrence in person, to see what he's all about. And, we've heard about him from his high school days, and then the build up through recruiting, and then the various reports from spring practice, and just this limited exposure to him in a scrimmage type situation, which is what this was, maybe even less than a scrimmage, because the quarterbacks were not live. He wasn't facing, real bullets from a pass rush. They did rush, but they couldn't tackle him. They could put their hands on him, but he was facing real coverage, and maybe bland, but he was facing real coverage. Anyway, I say all that to say, my goodness, what an arm. What an arm. I'm going to tell you, I know this is sacrosanct, but he throws it like Deshaun Watson did. The first time you saw Deshaun Watson in person throw the football, the thing that stood out to you was the deep ball and how it just dropped out of the heavens into the breadbasket of the receiver. And his first pass was to Cannon Smith, kind of a check down to the tight end. His next pass was a deep ball that just had the perfect arc and came right down into the hands of T. Higgins, who had a fantastic day. So we're going to talk a lot about this, and so as you'll hear from Sweeney. Dabo came out and talked to the media afterwards, and he said if they were playing a game today, that's Saturday, it'd be Kelly Bryant, the quarterback. But he left the door pretty much open that competition at quarterback is very much alive and well.
I have a couple of questions about that, though.
You disagree with that?
No, I kind of disagree because I think it's hype.
What he said.
The key point is I would not have let him, and this is only my opinion as a coach, I would not have Trevor Lawrence come out there with no pads on.
Yeah,
because
he didn't have the rib
because
pads.
he's not going to be throwing the football like he was padded Saturday. So get used to the padding now. Do it now.
I'm not going to sit here and say that Dabo said anything that he doesn't truly believe. I would be sacrilegious to say that and someone to sound like someone who is besmirching Dabo's character.
But
having said all that, I think this is a little bit of a Jedi mind trick being played by the head coach of the Clemson Tigers for motivational experiences only. I think the starting quarterback against Furman is going to be Kelly Bryant. I think anyone who believes anything other than that, I think you're using it with almost wishful thinking. But you can't dispute the talent you saw on display Saturday. But as I will also say, it's very easy to do that when you know you're not going to get hit.
Let's talk about it. 800-956-7266. We'll hear from Dabo. We'll hear from Brent Venables. We'll hear from the winner of the Heritage. We'll have another edition here in the springtime of First and 10 with Zach Willis. He'll break down Clemson for us and tell us what he thinks. That's coming up here on Sports Talk.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, we're back at Sports Talk. So what do you think, whether you're a Clemson fan or you're a Gamecock fan or you're just a general football fan in our state, who should be Clemson's starting quarterback going into the Furman game? Now, I do know that we still have a lot of time between now and then. Going to have a lot of practices and several scrimmages and things of that nature. A lot of things can happen. Kelly Bryant did not have the best day, but you know what he can do. He overthrew a couple of targets, and he wasn't allowed to cut loose and run and things like that. Chase Bryce actually looked pretty good. Hunter Johnson was okay. Our poll question on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, who should be the starting quarterback? Right now, 48% say Bryant, 30% say Lawrence.
It's a plurality, but not a majority.
And then 10% each for Bryce and Johnson. So it's, again, that quarterback room and how they handle that at Clemson, how they deal with the emotions, the feelings. Are all four of these guys truly all in and willing to accept a lesser role behind somebody else?
All in. You did that on purpose, did you?
Well, yeah, that's the point.
I know.
That is the slogan.
You did that on purpose, did you? I didn't. Again, you were there. I watched it after the fact on DVR, and I know that there's some things that probably don't come across having seen it in person. But again, I think that anytime you see somebody who is a freshman with limited reps and limited ability to, have the comprehension at the collegiate level, in my mind, you are going to run into a little bit of a learning curve. Now, that's not to say that he's not up for it. He doesn't have the talent, but it's very rare to see a guy who walks in day one in college. And again, it's not day one necessarily the fact that he's walking in day one and he's starting day one, but to be starting in the first game that you are in, it's rare now. And I think the other part of this that I think we're not talking about is the fact that there's 29 other guys on that roster who came in with Kelly Bryant in this humongous senior class, and other guys who basically know what he's gone through and know how much he waited and bided his time behind Deshaun Watson for this opportunity. And I also know that he believes that the 12 wins that he made last year should count for something. I know that they want to win, and I know that Trevor Lawrence has a lot of talent, but you almost have to bite the bullet and let him prove that he can't do it before you make that move, or you risk losing sections of the locker room.
You go back and listen to some of the comments, and you'll hear from Dabo tonight. But I think my take was they were setting the stage for a potential transition here. Tony Elliott made the comment to a group of reporters. I wasn't over by him, but I read it, and he said something along the lines of, our team, our players know who has game, and they're going to know if a guy has game and he's not in the lineup. That's going to bother them. He said they want to win. They're looking to win it all, and they want the best guy or guys on the field. So if you've got game, as he put it, they expect you to be in the lineup. And also, I think it was Dabo who made the comment about, Kelly Bryant did a great job for him last year. And was super in that role. But last year was last year. It's forgotten about in terms of competition for positions, whether it's quarterback or left tackle. If somebody were to come in and challenge Mitch Hyatt and prove to be better than Mitch Hyatt at left tackle, based on what he said, that guy would get the job. So at least that's what they're saying openly. I took from it sort of a preparation for this to happen. Now, maybe I'm reading more into it than exists at this particular point.
Well, let me look at it from the perspective of Trevor Lawrence is concerned, because one of the problems at the National Football League level, as we've seen, is young guys with tremendous talent are put in a position before they're ready for it. They think they're ready, and then suddenly they have some bad experiences, and then that gets in their head. So you got to be very difficult when you bring a first guy in, even though talented, make sure that he's put in a position to succeed, because if their problems start to happen, then suddenly they start to second guess themselves, and there's a precarious situation as that's concerned. But I like Will have worried about the control of the locker room. As long as I don't care if you make a change or don't make a change, as long as the locker room is not adversely affected, then you got to win in football.
This is where you need captains. This is where you need strong-minded captains, and that's the kind of move you talk about with captains, because captains have the pulse of the room, and I think you need to kind of gauge the pulse of the room and almost kind of, I don't want to say turn it into a democracy, but you have to mull the opportunity of how this will affect other people, especially the seniors.
All right, couple of quick notes, and we'll get to calls. The number 800-956-7266. Give us a shout. Love to hear from you tonight. Just a couple of the top stories of the day. USC announced, actually, we broke the story this morning that David Beatty would be leaving the USC program, and then USC confirmed it shortly thereafter. The freshman guard out of Philly given a full release from the Gamecock program. So, personally, just as an observer, I'm sorry to see that. I thought the kid had potential. Maybe he was a little bit over his head as a freshman, needed some more time to develop. But I tell you what, college basketball just has a problem between the one and dones and everybody else transferring anytime they feel like they're not going to get a chance to play, or coaches pushing them out the door. It's crazy. It is truly a revolving door in just about every basketball program in the country.
Frank throwed him particularly hard. You remember the comment he made about Beatty, saying that he had one of the worst practices ever known to mankind. Coincidentally, he also said that about Chris Silva in a later practice this season, but it was Beatty he used that phraseology on first. And, I think that a lot was expected of him, and I think a lot was expected of all the guys I think that Frank has brought in and have transferred out of this year. I think we expected Doomby to take the next step. I think we expected Gay to take the next step, and neither of them did, and they're all gone. So basically the biggest problem, and we've said this over and over and over again, the biggest problem is that Frank Martin did not have enough guys who were ready to play at the SEC level at any given time. There were guys who got out there and looked like they were way in over their head, deers in headlights, and not able to play. And I think this is at least part of that step of trying to get more people who are of that mold in this program.
I think probably one of the keys is I kept hearing Jalik Felton's name pop up, and I'm saying, well, wait a minute, where are the scholarships coming from? Where are the positions coming from? And you also have to think of who do you actually want out of this bountiful crop of 2019? Because not only have you signed players you think can play, but you better sign some guys who can move out in a year or two.
They've got two spots. They've got two spots available now with this departure. I got to believe they're holding one for Felton. And, of course, they signed – well, T.J. Moss will sign later this week or early next week. They've got the other two signed. And then there's the junior college guard that they had in over the weekend. We'll talk more about him. So that's sort of how things are setting up. Also want to mention something we reported this afternoon per a source. Mark Peeler, out as Erskine basketball coach after 19 seasons, will remain as the AD. We're told that Lee Sarter from Spartanburg Day will replace him.
Zion's coach.
Zion Williamson's coach. Zion Williamson's not walking through that door, but Lee Sarter is going to be walking through that door. Quickly, we'll go to the phones here on Sports Talk. No, I tell you what, that wouldn't be fair. Hang on, and we'll come back to you after the break because we've got just a little bit of time before the break. So we'll come back to you here in just a moment. Virginia hired their women's basketball coach, former WNBA star Tina Thompson.
Former Houston Comet.
Okay. And let's see what else I want to mention here. Baseball rankings for this week. Clemson, perfect game 12, collegiate baseball 13, Baseball America 14, and D1 baseball 17. Coastal making a move. 16 by Baseball America, 20 by D1, 23rd by Perfect Game, and 28th by Collegiate Baseball. RPI, Coastal has the best RPI in the state at 16, Clemson 18, Charleston 45, and USC 58.
How do you blow a game by 8 runs in the 9th inning? How do you do that?
And they carried over to that next game on Saturday because they were listless from what I'm told by people who were out there. Be right back. admit it, you're in a good mood because the Celtics won their playoff opener.
That's not it.
15 more wins to get to number 18. That's going to be my slogan. After every playoff win, we're going to count it down to get to number 18. The other part that makes that really nice is that K-Max Lakers are sitting at home again, watching the playoffs on television, like they will be for several more years.
I was in a good mood because I finally saw a good playoff game, especially when the South Carolinian hit 3.
You know what flashed into my head? You know what immediately flashed into my mind when he did that? A guy by the name of Gar Hurd.
Garfield Hurd.
Remember that? I think it was 77.
76.
76. He hit that shot in Boston that was in the finals. And
Hurd had the highest arc on a shot I've ever seen.
Game 5 of the 76 finals, correct.
Yeah.
Erskine has made it now official. They've announced exactly what we just told you. Mark Peeler, who has been the coach there for a long time, I think it was, 19 years, stepping down, will be the AD full-time, and Lee Sauter from Spartanburg Day is taking over there as the coach. Also, they wrapped up the 24 hours of Bristol today, and Kyle Busch, who I think is now the preeminent driver in NASCAR, really in all levels. The guy just wins in everything he drives.
See the finish there? It was
fantastic finish, just what NASCAR needed. Unfortunately, nobody was watching in the stands or on television, probably.
You'll see the replay.
Well, that's the thing. That's why they went to the Sunday finish for the Harris, because that's what happens. You get nobody there. So at least it looked like they had fans there on Sunday. Right. Did not do that for NASCAR.
But you couldn't. I mean, you can't do they had no weather break at Bristol. Right. Kyle Larson finished second. It was his race, and then Busch gave him the old little tap in the fender with about 3 laps to go. Larson said his car on the last run after the last restart got very loose, and he had slipped like a lap before. Gave Busch the opportunity to catch him. Got a little nose up under that fender, that rear bump, and you move him up the track, and he slipped by, and he went on to win. Then it was Jimmy Johnson, 3rd, best showing of the year for him. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 4th. Alex Bowman was 5th. Rest of the top 10, Eric Almirola, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, Joey Logano, and Ryan Newman. Want to mention that Bubba Wallace led for some of that race. Had a nice strong run in the 43 there for a while. But Monty ends up finished 16th.
Monty Dutton will still call him Darrell Wallace Jr. though.
Yeah, I like Bubba. Okay, let's go to we go to Dr. Tiger. Dr. Tiger will have the medicine for the Clemson football team right here on Sports Talk down in Myrtle Beach. What you got, DT?
Absolutely, Phil. Absolutely. A couple of points, and then I'll hang up listen. But talking about Trevor Lawrence, they all worked with a patchwork offensive line. It was mixed match on Saturday, and as well as he did, they take away a couple of passes that were called back because they touched him and he was down, which in the game he probably wouldn't have been down. But he would have had even more standout numbers if not for that, with a couple more big passes. And given everybody progresses the same during the summertime, you go into the season with 3 very winnable games for a new quarterback. You got Furman, and I think Georgia Southern, and A&M, who's a beatable opponent, even for a new quarterback with what they got surrounding him. So if Clemson really wants to win, they need to find something that Kelly doesn't have some magical evolution over the summertime, because he's had all this time he's been there to evolve. It just doesn't seem to have done that with the downfield passing game. But, Trevor obviously has that, and he's got some scrambling ability as well. If they want to win a national championship and don't hear what Alabama did to them last year by taking away any of those, not having to worry about a long ball and stacking the line, they need to let that guy play as much as possible in the first 3 games and not waste part of a season or risk a loss if they want to get there. And that's, y'all listen to what you guys think about that.
All right, thank you very much.
I'll say this. I don't want to say this to belittle the teams that are on Clemson's schedule. Their schedule is softer than Charmin, man. They could win 12.
Well, why do you
They could
why
win
do you
12.
set up your statement by saying I don't want to belittle, and then you come out and you belittle?
Because it's
why don't you just get right to the point?
It's the classic.
No,
classic hard sell.
You don't have to worry about people's feelings here.
It's a classic hard sell.
I hate people that say, I really like this guy. I mean, I really think he's a good guy. But whenever I know a but is coming, okay?
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the but. The schedule stinks. They could win 12 games with 3 of those 4 guys. it really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like, are we forgetting that Kelly Bryant won this team the ACC title last year after losing to Syracuse? Like, come on.
And he was hurt.
So, like, I don't understand. Like, why are people misremembering what Kelly Bryant did last year? All you're trying to think about is what happened against Alabama.
Calm down.
All I'm saying is just like
it's
calm down.
It's so
Kelly
crazy.
Kelly Bryant is a terrific guy. He really is. But he has his limitations as a quarterback. He did a great job last year, and his legs give him a very valuable weapon. His downfield passing, is, as the caller pointed out, is not great. His middle range passing is pretty good. Short passing is pretty good, and he can escape a lot of problems. And maybe that's going to be the difference, because Clemson has relied so much on a very mobile quarterback.
Right, exactly.
Now, people up there will tell you that Trevor Lawrence is much more mobile than you would think a guy his size is. We didn't get a chance to see it on Saturday. But the evolution of the game, and with Clemson's receivers, my goodness.
They got a lot of receivers.
If you don't give them a chance to go down the field and make catches, and you are wasting those guys. Yeah, you're going to have Amari Rodgers and people like that catching the underneath. But when you can throw to Higgins and Thompson and Powell down the field, and then develop a down the field threat at tight end, you got to have a quarterback that can get it to him.
Here's the key. I'm not worried about Trevor Lawrence's ability to scramble. I worry about when the other team arrives.
True.
Because as good as he is, some of those linebackers in the ACC will hit him and make a wish, because he's very thin. I don't want him coming out of that pocket if he doesn't have to.
I don't think he's very thin. I mean,
he looked thin
He's
as a rail without the rib cage
he's
pad.
6'5".
He's 200 pounds.
At 6'5".
I think that
I weigh more than that. And I'm 2 inches shorter.
I don't think you should use your body to
However, the
compare
veteran,
it to anything.
However,
except a
there are
sumo
some
wrestler.
linebackers in the ACC that won't hit Clemson's veteran quarterback, because he'll run over you. It just depends on what you need. Now, here's the other thing. Some of the intermediate throws he makes are done because of his escapability. I don't think some of those intermediate throws Lawrence will have, because they'll take those away.
And it's not where are we getting this thing that Kelly Bryant doesn't throw down the field? One of his first touchdown passes of the year was a 54-yard touchdown pass to Deion Kane. Yes, it was against Kent State, but still, it's almost as if
against air.
It's almost as if people think that he's crap. He's not. He's serviceable. He can win you games.
I hate to say it. Listen, we'll wait and see what happens. Cole Stout was a very good quarterback. He could win you
not
games.
The same comparison.
He could win you games,
Not
but you
the
had
same
Deshaun
comparison.
Watson.
Did Cole Stout win an ACC title?
They gradually moved him ahead.
Not the same comparison.
Kelly, I think Kelly's, right. I think Kelly's better than Cole Stout, top to bottom as a complete quarterback. But you've got a hugely talented guy. Now, he may not start that first game against Furman. He may not start that first road game against Texas A&M. Who knows? The coaches don't seem to be bothered by any of that based on what they said. In fact, we'll hear from Dabo coming up after the break. They, based on what they were saying after the game on Saturday, want the best player, the most talented player who can lead the offense and put him in the end zone running that offense. And we'll see. This guy has just got an unbelievable passing arm. And with those receivers, and T. Higgins has got a chance to have just a tremendous year based on what he showed on Saturday. He went up against a couple of really good corners on his own team. Fields on one side, Terrell on the other side, went up and took the ball away from both of them for big plays, one for a touchdown, one for a big game. So I can't sit here and predict the future.
No.
But based off the spring game and what the coaches are saying, I'm just saying it sounds to me like they're laying the groundwork for that to happen.
Sounds to me like they want to keep the guys motivated. And by
There you
keeping
go.
the guys motivated, that allows them to work harder. But I still think Kelly Bryant will start against Furman. He'll start against A&M. He will start until they lose a game.
I think that the players are smarter than that, but we'll see. We'll be right back.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, let's get to Dabo Swinney from after the Tiger Spring game on Saturday. Crowd of 55,000 announced. It was a beautiful day. They handed out the senior rings to the seniors at halftime, including, I'm not sure how many schools do this. Maybe a bunch do. Maybe they don't. I know they did it at Clemson, which is a really nice gesture, a little small thing that I think sits well with visiting families and recruits. Zarek Cooper, who'd actually transferred out of the program to go to Jacksonville State, they had him come back to get a senior ring. So I thought that was a pretty nice gesture by Dabo Swinney and the staff to remember a guy that didn't play very much but was in the program and ended up transferring out. He's now a Gamecock, as a matter of fact, at Jacksonville State, but came back to get his senior ring. Thought that was a nice moment for all involved there. Here is Dabo, however, kind of summing things up from his vantage point about the spring game and the competition out there.
Appreciative of our crowd. I mean, people don't realize what a big deal that is for a lot of reasons. One, to be able to simulate a game. Very few people can have a crowd like that to simulate a game and get so many guys that first deep breath of experience. And it's really neat to see a lot of those guys, to see their eyes that first time. Maybe it's that red shirt that's getting his first spring game. It's those new guys just got here. It's a different deal than just going to practice. And you don't get that if you don't have a crowd like that. And then secondly, to be able to showcase your place from a recruiting standpoint. There's a lot of guys here getting their first experience to Clemson, and to be able to walk into a stadium like that for a spring game, it's pretty special. So I really appreciate our fans for giving us that type of environment today. It was awesome. The weather was great, but it was a very competitive game. Early it was just a couple of plays missed, a couple of plays made on the other side, and a turnover. But the white team battled back, made it a competitive game, and then got a drive down there to really kind of flip it. And Trayvon Mullen came up with the big play to kind of put it away for the orange team. So some really, I thought a lot of guys stood out today. And it's always interesting on this day. It's the only time we do this where we just split the team right down the middle. And, it's another piece of the evaluation. I mean, obviously it's just we have 15 days. This is whatever happened today, it's just one day when it's all said and done. But it is a great evaluation piece for us because you see different lineups, different combinations. Obviously, you got the game day environment, and a lot of guys caught my eyes today. A lot of guys, like Justin Foster, for example. Here he is, getting an opportunity to start. So many guys getting that first start. T. Higgins had an unbelievable day. I asked him if he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I didn't know what was going on. He said, "No, I'm just trying to be your starting 9-man." I said, "Well, that's a good answer and a good way to do it." But great day for him. I thought Kelly, we didn't do a whole lot. He missed a couple throws early, but a little amped up. But came back and did a couple things. But I thought Ace was excellent. He's got a lot of moxie to him, and he competed hard. And Trevor getting his first experience. I mean, hard to start any better than that, to come out and throw a beautiful touchdown pass. I thought Hunter, same thing. Hunter had a very consistent day, made some plays, but all those guys, we had a lot of guys finish plays. Good to see DeAndre Overton right there at the end and finish a big one. T was excellent. Travion had some really nice plays. Amari showed up in the return game. And so we got a lot of good guys. Adam Choice, all the backs did some things. So, again, about what I thought it would be, very competitive. And good to see Hugo get back out there and be able to, same thing, have a crowd to run him out there and kind of break the ice a little bit. And he hit that 149-yarder pretty dang good that he missed. So I think that'll go a long way for his confidence.
Okay, Dabo Sweeney following the Tigers spring game. We'll have more from him coming up. Also comments from defensive coordinator Brent Venables. It was a big weekend for Clemson recruiting-wise in terms of commitments, getting 3 more commitments from, on Saturday, and getting their quarterback in the 2019 class in Tejan Pumachan from Avon, Connecticut, highly recruited, highly touted dual-threat quarterback. Florida State was the other team high up on his list, 2,253 passing yards and 25 touchdowns with only 1 interception last season. He also rushed for 663 yards and 17 touchdowns. Also, the Tigers in the commitment world picked up a wide receiver from Miami in Frank Ladson. He's a big wide receiver at 6'4", and so he's going to give the Tigers another big target there in the passing game. 29 catches, 675 yards, and 8 touchdowns for him. He was originally committed to Florida. And the Tigers capped it off with defensive back Landon Zander, 6'1", 180, out of Shelby, North Carolina. All these guys were in for the spring game, and so Zander's committed while he was on campus as well. And he had also been to Clemson in late March to watch a spring practice, and then things really started to pick up for Clemson with him after that. Georgia Tech, Vandy, East Carolina, Maryland, Tennessee, and others offers for him. Gives the Tigers now 8 commitments for their 2019 class. Some other news. Well, let's begin with or continue with commitments. USC basketball on Sunday got a commitment from TJ Moss, the 6'4" guard out of Memphis, who was in for his official visit over the weekend. He committed to the Gamecocks over Alabama, Memphis, Minnesota, Texas A&M, and Oregon State. He really likes Frank Martin. Felt at home there, thinks he can fit right in. He averaged about 7 points, about 5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game this season. He's a point guard, and that's where he played primarily at Finley Prep in Las Vegas, or just outside of Las Vegas. He will sign his LOI either later this week. He had to go back to Finley Prep after his official, so he'll sign his LOI when he comes home to be in front of family and friends. He'll do that either later this week or the first of next week. Running back, linebacker Kavaris Crouch of Charlotte was at the opening combine near Charlotte yesterday. He was interviewed by a host of media. He went to Florida State Saturday, going down with new Seminole quarterback commitment Sam Howell. He told the media he plans to visit USC again at some time. He said he's been thinking more about focusing on linebacker in college. This is a guy that rushed for over 3,000 yards last year alone. But he's gotten bigger, and he feels like he'll last longer in football as a linebacker. He told the Big Spur one of his concerns with the Gamecocks is he believes USC wants him to play running back. I think they can be convinced to see him as a linebacker. He also told the media Clemson, Tennessee, Michigan, and Alabama were some others coming after him hard. He plans to take his official visits during the fall. No timeline for a decision. Defensive back Tyler Rudolph of Waterbury, Connecticut, announced the top 5 of Clemson, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Florida. He was at Clemson over the weekend. And linebacker Trey Wilkins of Stone Mountain, Georgia, was offered by Arkansas. You might recall he tweeted a commitment to USC last Friday. Will Muschamp has not tweeted his Spurs up confirmation at this point. USC target defensive back Chris Steele of Bellflower, California, has set July 7th for his announcement date. He was at Oklahoma over the weekend. Linebacker Keith McGuire of Malvern, Pennsylvania, was at Clemson on Saturday. He has the Tigers in his top 5 with Notre Dame, Ohio State, North Carolina, and Alabama. Wide receiver Lance Wilhoit of Nashville did not make it to Clemson Saturday. Neither did linebacker Jalen Scott of Shelby, North Carolina. Clemson offered 2020 defensive lineman Brainerd White of Dallas, Texas. Clemson offensive line target Harry Miller of Buford, Georgia, was at Ohio State over the weekend. Another Clemson target, defensive back Kyle Hamilton, was at Michigan. Offensive lineman Zeke Correll of Cincinnati was at Clemson Saturday for the spring game. And Clemson offered running back Jerrion Ely of Jackson, Mississippi Saturday while he was in on a visit. He's committed to Ole Miss for football and baseball at this point. And we've got a little bit more for you coming up after the top of the hour break. We'll be right back.